Okay, so it's very rare that I say something is mandatory, but we've reached a point in time where I'm about to say that. And what I'm about to share is something you absolutely have to take care of sooner than later. And it has to do with Google Analytics, GA4. So over the last 4 years, we've seen GA4 data start to degrade in a lot of strange ways. We're not being able to track our advertising conversions as well as we used to. We're seeing a lot of missed attribution in terms of traffic being put in one bucket when we know it's coming in another bucket. Examples are traffic going into unassigned or direct when we know it's ad traffic. And in some cases, we've seen Google Analytics stop tracking data altogether. And it's because there's a combination of things that have been coming for quite a while. And Google has warned us about this, right? That third-party data was going away. There was going to be privacy concerns, all of these things that we just sort of like, yeah, we know it's happening, but things are still working. But that day is over. Things are no longer working correctly. And so I'm not going to get into the technical explanation here. It's all in this blog in terms of what needs to be done. But what I want you to know is we do have a turnkey solution, or this is something you can pass on to your developer and or other people. But we've done this for a number of websites, a number of clients, and things are working really, really well. And the first thing I want to share is you absolutely have to have privacy controls in your data. And it needs to be in the form of a managed pop-up that comes up so people can determine what privacy data they want to share with you. And here's the thing. The regular privacy policy in terms of services at the bottom of your website, that doesn't cut it anymore. Especially now that it's 2025, we have multiple new state regulations that are there in privacy. And so having a dynamic privacy policy, consent tracker is mandatory because it updates when things in the environment update, okay? And that's important because if you don't have the proper consent, then when it's attached to your Google Ads and it sees that you're not tracking it correctly, you start to not deliver ads, display ads. You start to lose conversion, tracking data, and first-party data, right? And so that's the first thing. The second thing is what has happened is Google Analytics is on your website, right? And all of these pieces of codes, tags, conversion trackers, all of these things slow down the website. But not only that, they actually make it difficult to pass that data back to GA4 because there's ad blockers and every different browser has different privacy. Every different device has different privacy. And so all of these things are preventing a certain percentage of your data not to be passed correctly onto GA4. We estimate it to be somewhere in 30%. And so if you're spending money on ads and you're losing 30% of your, customer acquisition cost data, you have no way of actually making a budget determination on what the value of what you're spending is worth, right? And so the solution for that is to move it off of your website and onto a third-party server. There are a couple of options. The one we've landed on is a no-code solution called State. They say it's simple and no code, but guess what? It's still technical. And there is also some movement in your Google Tag Manager, especially if you have the code deployed like via plugins, things like that in your WordPress site. So that all needs to be cleaned up, compacted. All of the tracking and tags need to be moved over to Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager needs to be deployed via a server. And then you have this consent on the front of your website. And when all of those things are working correctly, the wheels are greased and you, start getting much better data. Not only that, but we've seen our actual ads working so much better in this circumstance, especially in the AI-driven like Performance Max campaigns, those sorts of things, because they rely on that data to make conversion decisions, right? And so this is exactly the same as when we ask you for your email list that you own and we upload it to Google Ads And that helps us create lookalike audiences, those sorts of things. But with what I'm talking about, that actually happens in real time, right? And it doesn't matter whether people opt in or they don't opt in to your data sharing. Even when they don't opt in, it actually still gets passed to Google Analytics, Google AdWords in a hash data format. That's basically, it just means encrypted, right? So we can't see their email, we can't see who it is, but Google, being who they are, can still track it. So go ahead and talk to us. We have a fixed cost as a solution here to get this done for you. And if you want to work through your developer, those sorts of things, they can also do this. There is the cost to set it up, and there's some minimal ongoing costs. We're recommending a company called Cookie Yes for the privacy, and a server platform called Stape to move everything server side. Because when I say server side, you can't put it on your server, right? Well, you could, but the technical limitations would be amazing. So you don't want to do that. So those are sort of the fixed costs, and it's relatively inexpensive, especially when you consider how much you're probably losing in terms of data on what you're spending. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I have linked extensive blog posts that I wrote down below, along with some videos that describe the different platforms. They can explain it way better than I can. But the one thing I want you to know is, regardless of how you do it, this has to be done, and it has to be done. Probably Q1 this year makes the most sense. All right. Appreciate everybody, and I will talk to you soon.